Om Ajnanatimrandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jata Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganam Raganatang Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitangscha Ananda Leelamaya Vigrahaya Himava Divyachcha Visundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Yes, some question?
Dandavad Maharaj. We have a question from Tarun Krishna Prabhu. Please ask Maharaj if he knows, who composed Adhanatva Manta Gurun. I believe it is a shloka modified by Srila Guru Maharaja. It is similar to Srila Jiva Goswami's praise acknowledging Vedavyas in his Tattva Sandarpa introduction. First two lines, Adhanatva Mantra Gurun.
Anyway, I think he's answered the question. So another question.
Okay. Question from Praneshwari Didi, Florida, USA.
Yeah.
Who were Mother Jashoda and Nanda Maharaja before? How did they accumulate the security to play this role as parents of Sri Krishna? Jayanitai, humble pranams to all, to always revealing Sripad Goswami Maharaj and to the present and online devotees.
Well, actually, their positions are eternal. They don't achieve these positions. But many things like that are given in Puranic literature to allow this, to swell the progress of a story. Like we hear that Radharani got a blessing from Durvasa Muni that what she cooks tastes as sweet as nectar. And Garga Sangita will say, how did she get so much devotion? By worshipping Tulsi. Right? Or how did she get so much devotion? By observing Ekadashi. These are Puranic, how would you say, tales to allow a spotlight to be shined on a particular devotee's devotion. So it may say in one place, Drona and Dara, and Guru Maharaj says, it just means that Drona and Dara are absorbed in, say, the Anga Jyoti of Nanda Yashoda. They're participating in that. But Nanda and Yashoda, those are their eternal positions. They're not achieved. All of the Asraya Vigrahas, or the principal devotees of a particular rasa, that is their eternal position. They did not achieve that. But for the sake of Leela and pastime scripted and cast by Yoga Maya and Baladev, different things are told. But that said, to take it in the other direction, to show that for others, there is this possibility of achievement. Right? Vishwanath Chakrabarti gives an example in the 10th canto when it's going to describe the Rasa Leela. And in the beginning chapter, just their description like saying, the moon rose in the eastern horizon, and the scent of jasmine was fragrant in the air, and Krishna indicated to Yogamaya, this is the time. That's all it will say there. But Vishwanath Chakrabarti will say, well, the eastern horizon, that is the wife of Indra, and that is not the moon's wife, so it's some subtle indication that Parakiya Rasa, the Rasa Leela pastimes are going to take place. Right? So he's always extracting from seemingly very trivial or peripheral details, drawing out some internal meaning. So he says, when Yogamaya gets the indication from Krishna of his intention to engage in the Rasa Leela, saying, she surveys the servitors. Like Guru Maharaj says, the ever-watchful eye of Yogamaya is there. She knows all the devotees, what their qualifications are. No one is being neglected. No one is being undernourished or underserved. It's all known to her. And so she's going to survey the group of servitors and say, and give the indication for their participation. So Vishwanath gives a very nice example, because he's talking about different levels of like Nitya Siddha, this type, that type. He can give this analysis. And he said, when a king tells his chef that he would like to eat mangoes, then the chef goes out and sees a mango tree and starts picking mangoes and has a large amount of mangoes. And then when he goes back to the kitchen, he says, all right, this mango is fit right now. This one needs more ripening, right? And they're put in the sun or something like, to get more heat and light and achieve the ripening stage. So he said, that's how Yogamaya surveys all these devotees to see who's qualified. Say, oh, these are ready to go now. And then he says, and the ones who cannot go now, those are the ones who are held back by their husbands, their parents. They're for some reason, they can't go. And then he says, and what does that do? It ignites a fire of separation in them that brings them to, like the heat and light that brings the mango to the mature stage. The fire of separation brings them to the mature stage, right? So he's giving some inside analysis of gradation of these servitors. That there's a group eternally, and there are others achieving that position. But this is hard to discuss or hard to conceive, because what is eternal is eternal. So Srila Prabhupada, he gave a nice example in his work called The Light of the Bhagavad. And there he's talking about Nitya Siddha, Sadhan Siddha, different types of Siddha. So he said, when the sky is clouded, you can distinguish between the clouded portion and the unclouded portion. So he's saying like, Nitya Siddha, Nitya Baddha. He said, but when the clouds are removed, you can't distinguish between that part of the sky which was once covered and the part of the sky which was never covered. You understand? So he's saying, so when the so-called Nitya Baddha transitions to Nitya Siddha, those other considerations are no longer valid, right? But for the sake of analysis, someone like Vishwanath Chakrabarti can provide that. But otherwise, we should be very cautious in how we think of these servitors, right? We don't want to think of them in any lesser way. And again, Vishwanath said, when he's talking about Vasudeva and Devaki being the, in a sense, the original parents in Mathura, right? He says that they have very brief pastimes with Krishna, and then he's transferred to Gokula. And we've heard also, Guru Maharaj says, Sanatana Goswami Prabhu says actually Yashoda had twins. So really Krishna was born in Gokula. That's another matter. But he's saying in terms of Vasudeva and Devaki, the range or the period of their exchange is in a sense limited. And Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, they have very extensive pastimes with Nanda Kumar, with Krishna as a child. But to not risk in any way saying something even remotely disparaging about Devaki, Vishwanath says, I can't say any more on this subject, and I won't say any more on this subject. Because he doesn't want that by exalting one devotee, that someone else is being seen in a lesser position. So we will be told that from what is called tatastha vichar, from an impartial analysis, some sort of gradation can be indicated, but temporarily, that it is a temporary position that is adopted to engage in that. And the most famous reference is in the Ramananda Sambad. It says, Jar Jai Rase Hoy Se Sarvotam. The first statement is, whatever rasa one is experiencing, they think, this is the best, nothing could be better than this. They're totally satisfied. But then it says, tatastha vichar, from an impartial analysis. Then we would have to say that madhura rasa is the sweetest, and it's inclusive of all the sentiments found in the others. But if this is known to us, we should not think it is unknown to them. Right? Still, they have a particular preference, right? And they're happy with that. No one's going to convince Mother Yashoda that Madhura Rasa is better than Vatsalya Rasa. She's not going to enter into that discussion. She's totally satisfied in her eternal position as Krishna's mother. But that said, Guru Maharaj mentioned in one place what is called Anga Jyoti, or the effulgence of these divine personalities, and it's not light in the conventional sense, but is like more like an entourage of similarly, of servitors with similar type of heart and love and affection. And therefore we'll hear something like, and then Drona and Dara, after a certain amount of time, they could appear as Nanda and Yashoda and be the parents of Krishna. That's where that comes from. But this is, we're getting a little technical here. Any other question?
A question from...
So when you hear in the Garga Sangita, how did Radharani get so much devotion for Krishna? You go, she observed Ekadashi. What are you to take away from that? Observe Ekadashi. And it says, how did she get that so much love and affection? She worshipped Tulsi. What is the takeaway? Worship Tulsi Devi. But don't think Radharani achieved this position. Yes.
Prabhu, the question was sent us in Spanish, so Maheshwari Didi translated it. Watching the material energy.
Wait, watching?
Watching.
Observing?
Observing. Yeah.
Okay.
In which way does Krishna give a mission to his devotee to obtain Krishna consciousness if before the devotee has performed activities that religion doesn't accept?
Do you understand that?
No. Can I hear the Spanish?
Tell him in Spanish.
I won't read it in Spanish.
Somebody can read it.
Right.
He'll show it to you. Maharaj can translate.
Maybe you can read it.
Where is it?
While he is reading that,
En qué sentido Krishna le da una misión a su devoto para obtener su conciencia si antes el devoto ha realizado actividades que la religión no acepta? It says, in what sense does Krishna give a mission, I guess, purpose or something, in order to obtain Krishna consciousness if before the devotee has realized activities that religion doesn't accept?
I don't understand.
If he's performed activities that are not acceptable.
Be specific.
That's not my question, Maharaj.
Oh,
Maybe
right.
some materially unacceptable, spiritually
Yeah, I don't
unacceptable
understand.
activities.
Unless it's like some very gentle way of saying they were engaged in sinful activities?
Probably.
Is that what it means? Like, in other words, how do you go from being a person engaged in sinful activities to someone within Krishna consciousness promoting Krishna consciousness?
It's Sounds like
Could that be it?
There's an explanation here, I'm just reading.
Oh, okay. Hare Krishna. It's not good to read on camera. Is there any other questions?
He sent us 3 questions. They're following.
Is there a question that I can answer?
I can add something, though, about the first
Yes.
question.
Yes.
I don't remember any questions you couldn't answer.
Yeah.
All right, not about this, but
Yes.
the question you answered. And that was from Praneshwari Didi in Florida. And she was asking about previous position of Mother Yashoda.
Like,
And-
what did they do to achieve that?
Yeah, but I would just say, just as an addition to what you said, that I'm not so much concerned in that particular aspect, but I'm more concerned about the interplay between Krishna Leela and Mahaprabhu's Leela. And there are many, many correlations, and we hear the relationship between Madhurya Ras and Audarya, that the circle of activities in Vrindavan and how those activities are showing themselves in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the element of distribution. So I'm not trying to avoid the question, but I'm saying then I will be more concerned about the position of Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj in Mahaprabhu's Leela, and of course we know that that position will be of Sachi Mata and Jagannath Mishra. And at the same time, we also hear that when Mahaprabhu gives a comment, he says, I only know 2 names of Krishna, Shyam Sundar and Yashoda Nandana.
Yes.
So, and then we hear from the explanations of, for instance, Srila Guru Maharaj and others, about the closeness of the relationship between Mahaprabhu and his mother, between Krishna and his mother. Although, of course, we know of even deities that are named Shri Nandana Krishna, or like that, or this name is also given. It's not to minimize the position of Krishna's father, but Krishna is often related very closely with his mother, just as Mahaprabhu is very closely related with his mother. So I see that there are sometimes references between the Vrindavan Leela and the Gaur Leela, that sometimes there'll be a reference to the Gaur Ganadesh Deepika, etc. And sometimes we even see that there is a reference in the Gaur Ganadesh Deepika which will be, said a little differently by another acharya. That it will say, well, actually, and for instance, we'll hear about Ramananda Roy, and he's said to be Vishaka. And then even the other day we were reading how when Krishna is feeling separation from Radharani, Subal Saka gives him nourishment. And when Radharani is feeling separation from Krishna, then Lalita gives her nourishment. So I feel that there's that in Mahaprabhu's Leela, there's a reference or understanding that Mahaprabhu was fulfilling both of the requirements of Krishna in separation from Srimati Radharani and Radharani in separation from Krishna. And you'll hear that nourishment going on from the scripture citing of Ramananda Roy and the singing of Swarup Damodar. But when it comes back to going to the original source of saying, well, who is this personality or who is that personality? I don't know. I find that, although it may be point of interest to someone, I don't always find that to be something that, on a personal level, doesn't pique my curiosity so much. I'm not so much fundamentally going in that direction, that I wanted to know who this person was in a former, in a former Leela or a former presence of the Lord. I'm more or less more interested in the relationship between Krishna Leela and Gaur Leela, and that's more or less what I'm referring to.
Yes, and sometimes it will say, so is an incarnation of such and such. But sometimes it means literally, and sometimes it means functionally. So there are many different things to consider. Right? And what Maharaj is alluding to is, well, I'll put it this way, in what Guru Maharaj said once, which I think is, rather than just curiosity, something a little more substantial. That he said, when the devotees from Krishna Leela appear in Gaur Leela, it's as if they're playing hide and seek. So they don't know who everyone is. That makes it interesting. And how do they recognize? Because they don't look the same. Right? Even Nityananda is astonished to see the transformation of Krishna in the Gauranga. Right? When they meet, he's enchanted by that. But in other places, like we're told, who is that? Oh, Abhiram Thakur. When who does he meet? When he meets Nityananda, and he's wondering, is that really Nityananda? That Balaram, who I know from Vrindavan. So they're going to recognize by certain qualities and characteristics of devotion, really. But in this case, he says, I'm the fastest cowherd boy in Vrindavan, and only Balaram can catch me, and he can catch me in 2.5 steps. So he starts running, and then in 2.5 steps, he's within the embrace of Nityananda, and he's saying, oh, this is my Lord, Balaram, come as Nityananda. So on one level, we could say, like, don't they know that? By the influence of Yogamaya, they don't know that. So Guru Maharaj said, like hide and seek, they're discovering one another. So when someone shows a particular devotional quality, you'll hear them say, you are the incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. It may be literally Prahlad Maharaj or functionally Prahlad Maharaj. That is up to the expert acharjas to determine. But to give credence to the other type of thought, like when the ladies of Mathura see Krishna come from Vrindavan, remember up to this point, they've only heard about him. But we say that hearing is substantial. Just by hearing about Krishna, that's the beginning of seeing Krishna. Right? Some conception is coming to you. But when they actually see him, there's a verse, what does it say? Gopyastapa kimacharam yadamusya rupam lavanya saram asamordva ananya siddhim drigbi pibantunaba durapam ekanta dhamma yashasha shriya aishwaryasya. They're saying, Gopyastapa kim achara. What sort of austerities must the gopis have done? We're having a glimpse of the beauty of Krishna, but they're constantly drinking the nectar of his divine form. What austerities did they do to achieve that? It's a manner of speaking. It's not that they did certain austerities and achieved that position. Right? Gopi Bhav is a certain type of heart that they've acquired. But it's not that, because the wives of Kaliya, when they say, Yadvanchana Sri Lalana Charatapo, that Lakshmi Devi went in the Tapovan and did austerities for many lifetimes to try and get entrance in the Rasa Leela, yet could not enter there. But it's a matter of thinking. So how just seeing the beauty of Krishna, in one sense, it's a poetic way of speaking. Like we sometimes do that. If someone was eating a lot of prasadam, and we might say like, why, he's the incarnation of Bhima. We mean functionally because he's eating a lot of prasadam, right? We're not saying he's literally Bhima. Or Guru Maharaj say, our Guru Maharaj, Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur's incarnation of Jiva Goswami. He means functionally, that level of erudition, that the way he's protecting the sampradaya, right? That same sort of intensity and service to Rupa and Sanatana, the Guru Varga. So when he says he's an incarnation of Jiva Goswami, he means in that way. Yeah.
But we also hear that the personified Vedas, the Shrutigan, they did something right.
Yes.
And they were able to enter into the pastimes, whereas Lakshmi can't.
Yeah.
And this also, to me, relates to the answer, because the idea is that Aishwarya Gyan, the knowledge and the awe and reverence, the majesty of Vaikuntha, can't enter into Vrindavan. It can't enter into these pastimes.
Yes.
And that, so to know who somebody was in a previous Leela, that may be good, but at the same time, we know that Vrindavan and Navadip, they're very much unique in the sense of the approach of devotion, which is sometimes correctly identified or sometimes incorrectly practiced, of Ragmarg Bhakti. So that, and we always hear that the residents of Vrindavan, they're not worshiping Krishna because they know that he's God. They don't know that. They're not.
Jnana Shunya Bhakta.
Yes. And also, and what Mahaprabhu is coming to give is that sense of devotion, which is not relying on some kind of knowledge of majesty or the position of Vaikuntha, etc. So in that sense, I also feel that to understand the unique position of the Krishna Leela and the unique position of Mahaprabhu's Leela, it is that in itself seems to me to be kind of a prerequisite for proceeding. That we're not going to be investing in all these other things, and we also hear how the Nagapatnis.
Yeah.
They're amazed. I mean, they're saying that verse about Lakshmi, how she could not even get this, and they're referring to their, what we might say, their snaky husband, right? Who's getting all his hoods, and his head, in other words, is getting the foot dust of Krishna, who's dancing on his head, and this is a position that they consider even more elevated than Lakshmi. That they can't figure out what did he do right. That he got this. And they're amazed by that. Well, then you can understand that the Nagapatnis, they're something of devotees. They have that sense of, gee, look at our husband. He's getting Krishna dancing on his heads. Wow.
Yeah. What she aspires for and has not yet achieved, he cannot remove the lotus feet of Krishna. So it's an interesting observation. And it also says there, due to the pounding, he's like senseless. So when he starts offering his prayers, Vishwanath says like, he hasn't fully recovered yet. So he remembers, and devotees do this, he remembers what they said, and he starts with that. And then gradually he starts recovering his senses and consciousness and saying some more original things.
And then how did he even get there? He was placed in a precarious position by Garuda.
Yeah.
So he came there thinking, this is the only place where that Garuda can't get me.
Yeah. So, and how can he play that part if he's not some exalted soul? So I'm sure somewhere there's a description of his backstory. Even in the Bhagavatam there is up to a point, but maybe somewhere else it takes it further. You said there were 3 questions?
Good luck. You mean the ones in Spanish?
In Spanish.
All right, we can't keep doing that. No, I mean, you can't read on camera. So just...
Maybe there's a question that can be... did you read any of those questions where they were simple questions? No, okay.
Yeah, see, this, you can't have dead time like that. So what I would like to say is on the subject of hearing and conceiving. Because by hearing about Krishna, like I mentioned, those ladies in Mathura, they were hearing about him. And think about it, and the way it's described, very wonderful pastimes are going on in Vrindavan. Right? And the rumors are spreading too, from fruit sellers, flower sellers, and they're saying, do you know what happened the other day? And then they're telling the Putana Lila or Kaliya. They're telling about the pastimes of Krishna. So others are hearing about him. But through hearing, then we say Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila. From Nam, or Shabda, sound, then Rup comes. The form actually comes out of the sound. Right? So one of the best examples is the Queen Rukmini. So we were talking about this earlier, that normally if someone is kidnapped, you get a ransom note from the kidnappers. Right? In her case, she's writing a note to Krishna inviting him to kidnap her. So this is very different, right? And the first, it's like 5 verses that are very beautiful. And the point is, she's inextricably surrounded by inescapable karmic circumstances. I mean, thematically speaking. And she's on the verge of things going in a way that she really does not want to happen, right? So she's sending this invitation to Krishna to kidnap her. And in the first verse, she says, Srut va gunan bhuvana sundara srinvatam te nirvisha karna vivarai haratonga tapam rupam disham dashimatam akilarta labam tvayachuta vishati chitram apatrapam me. So he says, Shrut va gunan bhuvana sundar srinvatamte. So hearing about you, we can say they're eternal, that's another thing. This is within the Leela. She has not met Krishna yet. But by hearing about him, the form of Krishna has been revealed to her. So it's very clear to her the inconceivable beauty of Krishna. Yam Shama Sundaram Achintaguna Swarupam, and what is the other one? Ends in Shobhana, Vishesha Shobham, Kandarpakoti Kamaniya, Vishesha Shobham. Like 10 million cupids personified as one, that type of beauty and seductive charm, unimaginable, practically. So, but she's saying, I heard about you, and then the form of you appeared to me, and I became enamored. And she said, and in this instance, I understood, Srinvatamte, she's saying, why there is such a thing as hearing, why there is the auditory sense. Right? If we listen to evolutionary scientists, they'll say, no, the reason you have hearing is because, and your ears hear the predators are coming this way, and that's how you, and people, swallow this, right? That's so, that's what it is. So we're hearing that we have hearing to protect ourselves from predators, right? She's saying, no, the reason we have hearing is to hear about you, because by hearing about you, the conception of you, your form appears to us, and then with particular qualities and subsequently pastimes. So she's actually saying, this is the purpose of hearing. It's not one of the many things you can do with the auditory sense. You have the option to hear about Krishna. For her and these higher devotees, they're not saying it's optional. She's saying, oh, this is why we can hear, is to hear about you, hear your name, and in other contexts, the sweet sound of your flute. That's why there's hearing. Then, and she does each one of the senses. Then when she says, Rupam disham matam akilarta labham, then through this hearing, then when I saw your divine form, she said, then I realized why we have eyes, right? Is to see your inconceivable beauty. So we know in this world too, back to, euphemistic sayings. You know, someone will say, if you haven't seen this, you're blind. If you haven't seen this, you haven't seen anything, right? If you never tasted this, you've not eaten. It doesn't mean in a literal sense, but it's a level of intensity, of quality of experience. So that's what she's saying. You're so beautiful. Now I know why we have eyes. The perfection of seeing is now realized in seeing you. And how did that start? By hearing about you, right? Once when the subject would come up about seeing Krishna, one devotee, he wanted to know, who was like having faith, and so he said to Guru Maharaj, he said, have you seen Krishna? You know, and he prefaced his remarks by saying, we know, like, we dismiss all these bogus people who say, yes, I've seen Krishna. You know, we dismiss them as sahajya imitationists, we don't take them seriously. But he actually phrased this question in a good way. He said to Guru Maharaj, he said, but I know you're not one of those people. And he said, so I'm asking you, you know, like someone we could believe, if you've seen Krishna. And Guru Maharaj's answer is very beautiful. And he said, I do not have the audacity to say that I've seen Krishna. He said, but what we hear, you know, from sadhu, shastra, guru, and Vaishnav, they describe certain signs and symptoms that you should see along the way. And he said, and I'm seeing those signs. That was a very beautiful answer, right? But here, this is Rukmini, and she is just saying, and seeing your divine form, now I understand why we have eyes, and akilarta labham, now I think I've got everything. And in the last line she says, so I am shamelessly begging you to kidnap me. Right.
And in the meantime, Krishna, he's on the battlefield with Jarasandha the 18th time. He's already defeated him 17 times. The whole situation is getting really old. So then he has Rukmini's letter, and he leaves the battlefield, and he's chastised by Jarasandha, who calls him Ranchor, which
coward.
You know, which should satisfy at least our Mexican section that Krishna's called Ranchor. And a coward, who runs away from the battlefield. But he's already defeated him 17 times. I mean, when's this ever going to end? So then he kidnaps Rukmini. Rukmini was being forced into marry Sisupal, and partly due to the influence of her brother, Rukmi. But then later, there's a conversation between Rukmini and Krishna, where Krishna says, oh, I think maybe you've done bad by marrying me.
I'm not a suitable husband.
Yeah. Maybe you would have been better off with Sisupal. And Rukmini thinks that Krishna's going to leave her, and she falls over like like a banana tree that's
in a hurricane.
Yeah, been knocked over. Bangles fall from her hands and everything. And then she answers, and she says to Krishna that something to the effect, right, that who is someone of
what is a man
of this
but
world?
Let's not get too descriptive, even though it's the Queen Rukmini.
But she says, man is nothing but a bag of bones and undesirable elements with a mustache.
Right.
And she really, so He has that intensity of feeling for Krishna. Anyway.
Any other question?
I was thinking when you were answering that question about what is the purpose of ears and everything. There's that verse that little more formal way of saying it, but the whole ears are no better than the holes in the conch shell, and the tongue is Ardudri Keva.
It's from Sukadeva Goswami.
Yeah, saying that the tongue, if it's not glorifying the Lord, is no better than that of a frog.
Right. And it goes through each one of the senses. But what's interesting, what I found interesting about that, is that, you could say someone made a case. They said, well, Sukadeva goes, these brahmachari types, what they're like, right? They're so fanatical, and But when as Maharaj says, always try to understand the relationship in Chaitanya Lila. So in the Madhya Lila, where Charitamritam begins really after Mahaprabhu's sannyas. So there, and perhaps Madhya 2, 3, right, where the summary is, where Kaviraj Goswami says, maybe I won't live to explain all of this, so I'm now going to give it in a nutshell, what the devotees have begged me to express, what is unique, this unique about Mahaprabhu's ecstatic interior, right? Radha Bhava Duty Subalita. And he talks about Radharani worshipping time, quotes from Jagannath Ballava and elsewhere. But now Radharani is saying the same things. What use are the eyes if they do not see your divine form? In a similar way. And in the purport, Srila Saraswati Thakur quotes all the slokas that you're mentioning there from Sukadeva Goswami in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavatam. So you see in Charitamritam, the same thing that Sukadeva, and that's where he begins. It's in the 2nd canto. Begins his talks to Parikshit Maharaj. So what he's describing, it's resurfacing in a sense here in Chaitanya Charitamritam, but coming from the lotus mouth of Srimati Radharani. And it's revealing her level of devotional intensity and exclusiveness to the beauty of Krishna. As in that Ramananda Samvad, when we're told in the beginning, well, to try and include 2 things. Before that, Mahaprabhu is preaching to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and talking about backstory. Guru Maharaj tells us he was Brihaspati, the guru of the demigods. So he's being upgraded to Gaur Leela. And what does Mahaprabhu reveal to him? It says his Ishvara Murti. That means his divinity. That's not what he reveals to Ramananda. Right? You understand? He's not going to reveal his divinity. That's a given. What he reveals to Ramananda, we're told, Rasaraj Mahabhav Dui Ekarup. Rasaraj Krishna, Mahabhav Radharani have combined in one form. But we're told, and what does he say? I can't conceal myself from your loving eye. Because Ramananda says, when they first sit down, it says in the beginning description, it appears as though the sun was sitting on the banks of the Godavari river dressed in saffron. That type of effulgence. As if the sun itself were sitting there dressed like a sannyasi. And then they begin their talks. But at a certain point, Ramananda says, I'm no longer seeing a sannyasi. And yes? I'm seeing Shama Goparup, Shama Sundar Krishna. And Mahaprabhu is saying, oh, we've heard of this type of vision of the Mahabhagavata. Wherever they cast their glance, they're seeing Krishna. So when you look at me, you're also seeing Krishna. Oh, so fortunate to be in the and Ramananda, please, my Lord, do not tease me in that way. 'Cause I'm not finished. That's not all I see. I'm saying Shama Sundar Krishna, but what is bewildering me is there is this golden girl and her effulgence is covering him. What is this? And that's when he says, I cannot conceal myself from your loving eye, like Brahma Sangita, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena. He's saying, yes, see Rasaraj Krishna, Mahabhav Swarupini Radha Thakurani combined as one. And Guru Maharaj said, see how they mingle. And with that, he fainted. And when he awoke, he saw the sannyasi again. But the point I was going to say, when he's talking about Radharani, he's saying, who else would she embrace? Because he's saying, who is the girl? He's saying, Krishna, it's Radha and Krishna. And that is, Krishna is exclusive to her. In fact, Guru Maharaj will say, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, the original of original, Supreme Personality of Godhead, means at the right hand of Radharani. Besides someone else, Swayam Prakash or Swayam Rup, and Rupa Goswami goes into those details. But the original, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, means at the side of Radharani. So that sort of exclusiveness, it appears in a more general form by Sukadeva in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, and then it's more,
well, you get also that, like an intensity where the gopis are really criticizing very heavily Lord Brahma, the creator.
Yes.
Because he's only given us 2 eyes for seeing Krishna.
And eyes that blink.
And eyes that are they're blinking. They're blinking, so for a split second, you can't see Krishna. And
Krishna Viraha. Because Vishwanath says the Rasa Leela takes place for a night of Brahma, Brahma Ratri. So that's 4,300,000,000 years. And what do they think that was like? The blink of an eye, right? So that's union, right? Like Gurudev and religion of the heart says the Shamanam of Radharani saying, she will never be satisfied by any amount of association with Krishna. Always left in the hankering position, wanting more. So that Rasa Leela, and we're told, Yogamaya assembled 4,300,000,000 nights into one, and that was the duration and the opinion of Radharani and Braja Gopis, but it was like the blink of an eye. Before it finished so quickly. But then, to show the depth of separation and why Mahaprabhu is mining that in Gaura Leela, here, Atati Yadbhavam, the Pakshma, they're blinking of the eye. So they're saying a moment's separation from Krishna is like a day of Brahma.
Or an unbearable eternity.
So it's going in the other direction. A moment's separation brings out that kind of intensity. And that's Sukadev, who speaks in the beginning. Guru Maharaj said, why is Sukadev Goswami selected to be the loudspeaker of the Bhagavatam? Because from one point of view, he can be taken to be a Brahmavadi in a certain context, not yet, at a certain stage, not a full-blown devotee. So why is he, but that's the reason why he's selected. He has the credibility, and as the perfect brahmachari, he has no interest in the mundane love affairs of men and women, which is it's not a anecdotal story that's presented in the Bhagavatam. If you find something in there, it must be critical to understanding. It's laying a foundation. So what do we hear? When he leaves Veda Vyas, he goes past the pond where what were they called? From the Deva, the divine ladies. Anyway, ladies are bathing there, right? And Dibya Devis, they're bathing, totally naked, and Sukadeva goes by and they don't bother to cover themselves. When Vedavyasa is running after him going, "Oh, my son," and we're told only the trees echoed, no response came, and Vedavyasa is like heartbroken, "Oh, my son." And he comes upon the Divya Devis, and they're covering themselves out of shyness. And he noticed, he's saying, "But when he went by, you didn't do that." And they said, "Yes, because we could see in his eyes no male gaze, not even a remote trace of the male gaze, and it's so pure. So there was no necessity." And then you think, like Veda, but for me, like he's Veda Vyas.
Well, you're a grihasta. You're a grihasta. You can't function in that position without making some distinction.
Yeah. But why? So we think, oh, that's an interesting story. No, why is it there? Because that same Sukadeva, who's now certified, that means he has no interest in male or mundane eroticism. What does he say? When he appears in the assemblage of the sages, all the great sages of all the different schools of thought have assembled all over the universe. Parikshit Maharaj is fasting for 7 days until, who? Tarksha? Tarksha, the snake bird, will come and bite him. He's asked them all to give some recommendations. Some were saying Gyan, some Tapa, some Yoga, and he's saying, I have 7 days. You could devote your whole life to those things. Get together and give me a consensus, a unanimous suggestion what I should do. And that's when Sukadeva comes, looking
16 years old.
Naked, looking like a mad urchin. Children are throwing things, calling him names, but then all the sages with the big long beards, they stand up to receive him because he's legendary. That he was in his mother's womb and as a liberated soul for 16 years before coming out. So he is, and then Guru Maharaj makes a point. They're giving recommendations to Parikshit Maharaj on the basis of what helped them overcome Maya or illusion. But Sukadeva's legendary, he's never been under the influence. He's already a liberated soul. So although he's 16 and the most junior, he's given the presidential seat. And in the group is Vedavyas and Narada. And Guru Maharaj said, they're thinking like, let's hear, what the boy, like he took how it's going to come out of him and some new light, they're like very eager to hear. And what does he begin? He needs to give some introduction. He says, Parinistitopi Nairgunye Uttama Shloka Lilaya Grihita Cheta Rajarse Akyanam Yadaditavam. He's saying, you all know, Parinistitopi Nairgunye, I was situated in the Nirguna plane. This is the Saguna world. He's saying, I'm already began in Nirgun. So he's saying, but Uttama Shloka Lilaya, I heard these marvelous poetic descriptions of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and the Braja Gopis, and it captured me heart and soul and took me away to another world that I didn't know existed previously. That's why he's the speaker of the Bhagavatam.
He heard them from woodsmen.
Vedavyas trained him in that one verse to capture his attention. What is it? I can't think. Nivrtatar Shire Upagiyamanad Bhavo Shadat Shotra Rano Biramat Ka Uttama Sloka Gunanavadat something Aditavan. But it's, what's interesting there too is it says Bhava Oshud. It's saying this is the medicine that cures material. Pashugnat is the last line, not Aditavan, Pashugnat. Who would not appreciate this, but such and such. So it's saying there, normally the medicine that cures you is not sweet, it's bitter, it's not a pleasant experience, but you're told, take this and it will cure you or heal you. But here it says, It's Manobiramat. We were talking about Abiram before. It means beautiful. Mano Abiram means it's so beautiful to think of and think. And this medicine tastes very sweet and wonderful. So Purikat Maharaj, who's supposed to be fasting for 7 days, said, I'm not thirsty and I'm not tired. He's saying, because what I'm drinking continually, the nectar of your descriptions of Krishna. So,
Sukadeva Goswami, he heard some description his father had given these woodsmen. Some,
that's sloka, Nivritta Tarshang. Like, where'd you hear that?
Oh,
Someone I'd really like you to meet.
your father.
Because they didn't know what it meant. He trained them to saying it.
We heard that when
They're like lumberjacks.
Yeah, so he never
With
heard it.
no
He
offense
didn't
to our
get
Canadian
he didn't get
brothers
it.
and sisters.
He didn't get a chance to hear from Vedavyas, even though the Vedavyas, his father, said that when he was born, the only question is where's the door?
Hare Krishna.
Vedavyas trained them with this verse, and when he heard that, then his curiosity was.
Yeah.
Then he wanted to know more.
Hare Krishna. Mars, would you like to sing?
All right.
Hari Harai.
Okay. Hari Haraya Namah Krishna Jadavaya Namah.
Hari Harai Nama Krishna Yaravaya Namaha.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah.
Yaravaya Madhavaya Kesavaya Namaha.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan.
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra.
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra.
Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath.
Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath.
Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Chai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan.
Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan.
Jahoite Vignana Shabishta Puran.
Jahoite Vignana Shabishta Puran.
Chai Gosai Jar Mui Taradas.
Jai Gosai Jar Mui Taradas.
Tasabar Padarenu Mora Panchagra.
Tasavara Padarenu Mora Panchagra.
Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas.
Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas.
Janame More Abhilash.
Janame More Abhilash.
Chai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabha.
Chai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabha.
Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash.
Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan.
Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Amma.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Amma.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriya.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriya.
Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naradamodam.
Harinam Sankirtan Kohe Naradamodam.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo.
Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo.
Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo.
Jai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Jai Gaura Hari Bo. Jai Om Vishnuvad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Sathara Sada Shri Srimad Shri Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad Shri Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Bhagavan Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Jiu Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Shri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Acharya Brinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Bhimalavadut Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Sri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Seva Brinda Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakti Brinda Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanande.
Jai Om Vishnupad Shila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
What did he say? He's saying, he likes saying Jai.
Maharaj, some dandavats from our devotees all around the world. Dandavats from Anusuya Didi, Madhu Gopal Prabhu, Kshama Bhuti, Audarya Lila Didi, Damodar Priya Prabhu, Russia, Dhananjaya Prabhu, Russia, Irina Eliseva, Russia, Rasamrita Didi. Also Sahadevi Johns, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Does it say where Anasuya is writing from?
Not, it is not saying. Murari Mohan Das, my humble Dandavat pranams Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj and Srila Janardan Maharaj. Dandavats to all the assembled devotees. All glories to your seva. And Dandavats from Lahta devotees.
Hare Krishna. Jai Vanchakalpa Tribhyasta Kripasindu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo.
I have a feeling that's Anasuya from Iowa.
Yes. Beloved Anasuya Devi, one of our all-time great servitors. Hare Krishna.